Let's do this. All right. 4-foot purple penguins.
21C.
My story is not about penguins, it's about fixers. Don't worry about that. I'll tell you what a fixer is later. But the story does start off here in Oklahoma at 21C, the home of purple penguins. The hotel was covered in these things, okay? And the staff encouraged people to interact with them. So we put them outside our friends' doors and do things with them. This is the last morning on the right, me having breakfast. He's wearing my robe. Goodbyes are really hard, but goodbyes don't last forever. 2 weeks earlier, Tim, we've been given the green light on Russia, India, China, Brazil, and Mexico. We are just confirming everything now with our fixers. What is a fixer, I thought? A fixer is a producer who arranges every aspect of production for out-of-town film crews. Preface. All right, here's my granddad in 1976, Northern Canada, singing with some First Nations people. My family were missionaries, okay? My parents taught me a lot at an early age about how to respect other cultures. Came in very useful. As I get older, I see how I share my grandfather's affinity for travel. There is one truth about traveling to unknown places that is timeless, okay? Both for my granddad, for me, for everyone. Your experience will only be as good as your fixer, meaning you were at the mercy of your guide. So the story picks up in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Our fixer here was a laid-back, jolly man who was constantly on his phone hustling other projects as he was working on ours. Besides arranging gear rental, the most important thing a fixer does is hire a crew, okay? I gotta tell you this, fixers are paid between $10,000 and $20,000. And they're responsible for hiring the crew they want, okay? The sound guy he hired constantly was interrupting our director in the interviews to interject his opinion in Portuguese, which was very bizarre. I didn't understand anything because everything was in Portuguese. Next up, Mexico City. That's a hotel in Mexico City. Guys, Mexico City is fantastic. It's nothing like I thought. If you thought it was one thing, go check it out. It's amazing. Our fixer here was a young guy in his 20s. He was always in a good mood. He was a DJ by night, so he introduced me to a bunch of cool music. He hired an amazing crew, especially the armed security detail that was military trained. Okay, this is off topic, but I gotta tell you guys a story. So the guy that we interviewed in Mexico City was this man. He had a mansion and he had an entourage. A couple days into the interviews, our curious sound guy asked him, "So what do you bring to work every day?" The man, very well dressed, he pulls two things out of a bag: a wad of cash and rubber bands, and a pistol, puts it on the table. Not shy about it at all. Our fixer was like, "I don't know." Okay, I must tell you that after Mexico, I was able to come back for a 5-day break, during which my wife Maddie and I closed on a house and moved into the house. Then I flew to Russia. When I got back from Russia, she had everything unpacked and everything looking amazing. And isn't she amazing? Yes, yes. Okay, back to Russia. Okay, thank you. All right, Russia. The fixer in Russia was the most interesting of them all. He was like Jekyll and Hyde. At daytime, he was like, he frowned all day. And then nighttime, he was like, ah! He was the happiest person ever. He loved to party. Okay, sure, we found him sleeping in the van during filming days, but he showed us an amazing part of Moscow nightlife. In Moscow, everyone dances like this. Everyone dances like white kids in prep school in the 90s. They just kind of like... In contrast, India, these kids know how to dance. Our fixer was the most beautiful Indian man I've ever seen. It was like Aladdin in human form. He was a comedian also, so he had us constantly cracking up, mostly about how weak American stomachs were and how we spent so much time in the bathroom. But I never got sick. He hired an extremely experienced crew. One of the cameramen worked with Morgan Freeman on an HBO series. So like India's film scene is like going on. They're very well trained. India was my favorite. Look at these beautiful people. India was my favorite place out of all the countries I traveled to. The food, the culture, the colors, the dance, the traditions. It's an amazing place. And if you've heard scary stories, I encourage you to go. All right. Fifth stop and final stop, China. Our Chinese fixer was a young young woman who spoke Cantonese, Mandarin, and English. She smiled all the time, but she had her crew whipped. One story is me in a van with a camera on the hood of the van. I ran out to fix the camera, and before I could get to the hood, a Chinese PA, had flown out of the other vehicle and thrown an apple box down for me to stand up on before I even got to the hood. Like they were ninjas. It was incredible. The most highly trained crew I've ever seen. Amazing. There's so many more stories I could tell you about our fixers, about our musical experiences, playing music for people in the lobby, about stories and interviews that made me cry, but I don't have much time. So another time I can tell you some other stories. But after these, well, first I gotta tell you that the MVPs of all fixers were the first fixers in my life, my mom and dad. They're the ones who taught me how to behave in a way that's respectful of people in strange lands. They're the ones who taught me kindness, thoughtfulness, how to work hard, how to play hard. Thank you, Mom and Dad. And after all these 6 weeks later, I was reunited with my wife and Penguin. He came all the way to Chattanooga and met me at a friend's house, and that's me teaching him Michael Jackson moves. Thank you, Lucky, for having me speak and tell you these stories. The light in me sees the light in you. Namaste.
I think we're going to make him come back to the next PK and tell us more stories.
Okay.